Hi, this is Dr. Les, and welcome back to I Bought a Farm. So now what? Alright, it's moving day. It's time to turn the heifers out on the rest of the north side of Paddock 1. I'm going to flip this around. So this is where we're turning the heifers out to. Alright, it runs down there around the pond. We have a single access right there, and I'll go down to it in a second. You can see all the grass that's available to these heifers up here on this end. We've got polywire that runs up to that fence line, down here, and to the corner. It's awful windy today, and I've got a microphone on that is supposed to reduce the wind, but we'll see. And if it's not reduced, just bear with me. We're doing the best we can. But anyhow, I'm gonna go down and we're gonna look at the water gap. We're gonna look at the splicing that we did. Gonna look at the setup for the charger, and then we'll turn the heifers out. Here's the only splice I had to make today to open up this north side. The aluminum wire comes from the charger, comes down around the pond, fencing off the pond area, and then heads to the east from here. So I wrapped the polywire around the aluminum wire very well, and then down on this end, hopefully you can see it, I burned about 2 inches of up the polywire. I used a lighter and burned the plastic off of it so that I could get wire-to-wire contact. Just taking video along the pond where we're showing how we're fencing the pond off. A lot of wind here, so hopefully it's not coming through. And bear with the walking. Coming up on the water gap. Alright, we want to limit access of the cattle to the water, to the pond, so that they don't tear the pond up. And because we really don't want them going to the restroom in there at all. So what we've done, we filled a bucket full of concrete, put a T-post in there, sunk that in 2 spots, and then we put wire up along, and then of course there's insulators there, and so that wire runs along, goes to the T-post, goes to that T-post, comes out the other side. If it stops raining and the water level gets lower, we've got plenty of wire on a spool over there. We can just pull the wire through, extend those on out into the pond to give them more access to water. Dr. Limcooler showed you the other day how to set up a fence charger. Okay, I just thought I'd go over it again. Number one, cattle like to eat wires, you know, particularly these red and green ones. And so we needed to get the charger away from access to cattle. So I drove a T-post inside, because they don't have access to this area by the pond. Inside the pond, close enough that I can reach the handle to turn it off, and yet far enough away that something's gonna have a hard time getting to the wires to chew them off. Remember, we want it facing south, and I've got it just a little bit southwest so that our charger can maintain good charge. I've just got a standard volt tester here for an electric fence, and they're hard to see in the daylight, but that's running about 5,000 volts, which should be more than enough to deter our heifers from getting out of the fence. Okay, remember, electric fence is more a psychological barrier than a physical barrier, and so that should be enough to keep them from coming through. My dad taught me to never trust a splice, so I'm going to check every space on the fence to make sure that we have good charge. Again, we're running about 5,000 volts here. Not sure if that's popping up because of the sunlight, but the charge is good here on this fence after the splice. I think you can see there's excellent grass in here. Some weeds, of course. But these heifers are going to eat really, really well here for the next few days. Here up on the far east end, still running 4,000 to 5,000 volts. Not sure if you can see that flashing or not. All right, now we roll up the old fence. Remember a couple days ago, 5 days ago, we put up this double thick poly wire to give them about an acre here on the bottom half of this north paddock. And I think you can see that they've eaten through that pretty good. Okay, there's some tops left to the bluegrass. Certainly some tops left to those weeds. But the heifers have gone through and eaten most of the good. Okay, so it's definitely time to move them. And so I'll take this fence down. It's just busy work, so I'm not going to video any of that. I'll take this fence down, then I'll call them and let them have access to this whole north side. And they should be good here for, I'll probably leave them in here 5, maybe 6 days. Move them maybe on Monday or Tuesday of next week into paddock number 2. We're getting ready to take this fence down. All I got to do is roll it up with those rollers, and then I'll holler at the heifers and give them access to the rest of this paddock. All right, took about 20 minutes to roll that fence up, pull all those fence posts, but this one out of the ground. Okay, so it doesn't take too long. Again, I hope the wind isn't too bad. You can see where the heifers were and where the heifers are going to go. Clear demarcation of the thickness and quality of forage and how much those heifers have grazed here in the last 5 days. Come on, girls. Let's go. Woo! Come on. Come on, girls. Let's go. Come on, girls. Woo! Come on. And most of them are out. One of the key things to manage grazing, or managing cattle just in general, I think, is disposition and being with the cows and letting them get to know you. And most of the time when they see you, it needs to be a reward, like new grass or something to eat. Okay, in this case, this way I can just call them. They'll come through the paddock fences. We'll be able to move from paddock to paddock without me chasing anybody and without them losing weight. I included a few still shots of the water access to the pond, just in case the filming was a little too fast and you couldn't see how everything was set up. So the heifers are out in paddock 1. First step. Thanks for joining us on I Bought a Farm, so now what?